The one thing when you're talking about visualization is you don't want to, let me just frame this right. You said you don't want to get stuck in the picture.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people when they think of visualization, they're going for the picture, not the feeling. How do you define the two, and how do you stay away from getting obsessed with the picture as opposed to the feeling?
That all comes down to purpose. At the end of the day, you've got to define what your purpose is. And the problem is, when you're young and you haven't had many experiences in life, that means that you need to get out there and start throwing yourself into loads of different experiences, because you need to start defining what really makes you tick. So it's about defining your purpose. Initially, you've really got to step into the short-term discomfort for the long-term gain and start doing things in life. Not start following someone else's path and follow the program, so to speak. And then later in life, if you're had loads of experiences, it's about sitting down and write down all the things that really excited you. You need to define your purpose. What is your purpose in life? Once you do that, you define, going back over history, where have I felt really good about myself? What have I enjoyed most? And then you'll start to define your purpose. So that really all comes down to purpose. I mean, for me, I didn't find my purpose until 2011. And that was when I was rescuing the kids from child prostitution and slavery in Thailand. And I didn't know the gift that would give me. So for me, I wasn't searching for my purpose. I didn't know there was such thing as defining your purpose. At that point, I just thought I just couldn't find anything that would satisfy me, and my life was just haywire. And then I went over to Thailand. We were involved in operations, rescuing kids from child prostitution and slavery, going and infiltrating enemy camps and getting the kids out. And that, for me, when I actually saw these kids then go to the orphanage, and then a week later, or a couple of weeks later, you're seeing these kids, very young kids walking down the street with a school uniform on and a satchel. And only weeks before, they were about to be sold into some brothel. That is fucking rewarding.
I definitely want to touch on what you was doing in Thailand. Just on finding purpose. I think some people, I've had this conversation recently with somebody, we're talking about purpose, and they says, yeah, but I don't want to test that out. I think I don't know what I want to do right now. And I think what you was talking about is perfect. You just need to live. That's how you find. How for somebody who's in that mindset is like, I don't know what to do though. What do they have to do?
Well, you have to start getting experiences in life. You really have to start pushing the bar, whether that's travel, whether that's, everyone will have a passion or a desire to be something. You know what I mean? And whether that's someone that wants to travel a lot, whether that's someone that wants to be in business, you've got to start pushing the boat out and start experiencing with things. You know what I mean? So you've really got to push the boat out, and some experiences you're not going to enjoy. But you start noting down the things you do enjoy, and before you know it, you can define a purpose of where you're supposed to be and what floats your boat.
So towards the end of your career, you went out to Thailand, and can you just explain through that? And also that I remember there was a point where for you, you'd really, like you said, you'd found your purpose. Just talk us through that particular occasion.
No, I mean, I came back. I was in Iraq for 6-7 years, and it was getting far too much on top. There's some of the lads, we lost a couple of lads, and it was just being in a war zone for 6 years. It's just far too much. You are going to have mental health issues. It's like going back to, for us, we were going back to a prison every time we came away on leave, and then we go back, and it was like being in prison, self-imposed prison. We used to go out and stuff, but basically we had these villas that we'd put steel all on the inside of the house, so every time the bullets went down, we'd just lock ourselves in. And it was all getting too much, and I had to leave. So I left, and then again, like I did when I first left the Special Forces, I thought I'm going to try and redefine myself. So I got into sort of property. I need to stay out of war zones, all this and the other. And I was getting into property, into real estate, and I just got so bored. And then I heard about the Grey Man, which was an organisation that was rescuing kids from child prostitution and slavery that was operating in Southeast Asia. I was introduced to this ex-commando, Australian commando that was running the operation, or it was his operation, and basically asked me to come on board. And for me, 1.6 million kids a year in Southeast Asia are sold into slavery and prostitution by their families. Now, when I heard those stats, and there's probably a lot more than that, but when I heard those stats, for me, I complained about not getting a hug from my father or whatever as a kid. These kids are sold by their parents into a life of slavery and prostitution. They know what's going to happen to them, and I couldn't get my head around that. So for me, I wanted to be part of helping change these kids' lives. I consider myself very fortunate for the life I've had, although we can sit and drip and complain about this, that, and the other. In comparison to these kids, that something had to be done. So I used my money from Iraq. It was all self-funded by me, and I went over to Southeast Asia, and that's where we started. Initially we were working in the brothels, trying to identify kids, and working with the anti-human trafficking department in Thailand. And then when we went in to do the busts, all the staff had changed. So they were leaking the information to the brothels, and it was just pointless, absolutely pointless. So from that point, I then went into, I thought, with everything, you've got to get to the source of the problem, forget the stuff on the fringes. And we went and worked with another organisation called COSA, Children of Southeast Asia. And we went to basically the Thai and Burmese border, and we were a load of camps where they held kids waiting to be processed by the cartels. Taken to the fishing villages, taken to the clubs, taken to the sweatshops, all that kind of stuff. So they would be held in these camps. So it was our job to basically get in there to these camps, either before the cartels got there or between the time they'd come up before they actually took them away, and intercept these kids before the cartels got back. So it was amazingly hairy. It was the first time in my career that I'd made the decision not to take weapons. We'd made the decision not to take weapons, which was a big call because it's what I've always relied on. And to not take, the thing is, if we had the weapons, then we could easily have been identified as DEA, and that could have caused further problems. So we made the decision not to. And basically we got in and got a load of these kids out. But unfortunately, we had such a good run that our organisation back home, back in Australia, was so proud of what we'd done that they went out to the media. And again, in hindsight, it was the wrong thing to do. But at the time, we were just had a few big wins. We were on a bit of a euphoric moment. And they put it in the paper anyway. It caused a massive international incident. It was in the papers all over the world. And we were still in country. We went on to further operations out there, and then we got the call to, you've got to get out as quick as possible. The US State Department had got onto the Thai government and said, look, we're reading the newspaper here, we give you millions of dollars every year and you do nothing. And there's a 4-man team gone in and done more than you've ever done. And so the Thai government denied that any such activities were going on. They stated that the Grey Man organisation was a bogus charity, and that we were putting the money in our own pockets. And there was basically a manhunt for us. So it was arrest on sight, and we had to escape out of Thailand, across the Burmese border, back home. And the hardest thing for me was the fact that I'd thrown everything into that. I thought that was my new life. I'd found my purpose. My purpose I saw the power of helping other people. And that is such a phenomenal gift. When you actually help people less fortunate than you, or just in general anyway, I think that is something that we have lost the power to harness. Everyone is like hunting for the most social media followers, the more followers on Instagram, whatever it is. Even in a place of work, when you're working on the same team, there's people fighting against each other because they want the kudos of being better than the other person. We forgot how to work together. There's not many people that do selfless acts of kindness anymore for someone for no reward. And that for me, I paid to go over there. There was no reward for me helping these kids. And that was the biggest reward in itself. It was phenomenal.